Howdy everyone. So I've been working on my center section skeleton, if that's what you want to call it. And let me get my glasses out of my mouth. A few things I want to touch on before I get too far along and forget what it is I want to talk about. You can see here that I've got these four ribs modified here. The plans have you modify these two center ribs, but a lot of people also modify the outer two as well to give you room so you can drop the control stick assembly as an entire unit right into place. So that's what I elected to do. These are all completed except for obviously bolting it together, which I'm going to do after I get these skins fitted. So for now I'm just going to leave these clecoed. So that is one thing. Another thing is you have these rivets here where the rib slips underneath this flange and it gets riveted. Now the instructions call out this specific rivet as an AN 426. So that lets you know that it is a flush head rivet, so you have to do something to this flange to allow a flush head rivet to rivet to it. So I've elected to dimple because I've dimpled the entire bottom flange here along the entire bottom. And I figured if I can dimple this bottom flange, I can also dimple this top flange. So I chose to dimple in these locations where the ribs come in to this flange here. So that'd be this rivet, this rivet, this one, and so on for the rest of the ribs. Now they had you countersink the rivets for the nut plates, which makes sense. But as far as the rib goes, I just went ahead and dimpled the flange and I dimpled the rib. What else? On the back area here, I've got my ribs in place. Riveting these in place was a little bit of a chore. I had to use the offset, the double offset rivet driver, and I am not a pro at using that specific tool at the moment. So the rivets are okay. They're structurally sound. They're not the prettiest things on the planet. I have to go around this way. But they will work. They're fine. I'm not going to bother drilling them out and trying to reset them just because they're not absolutely perfect. There's a few of them right there. So those three, this one, and these two. And I went ahead and put them in as you see. So I have the shop head facing forward just because it was easier for me to get the gun in this direction rather than trying to get the gun in this direction. So that's how I decided to put the ribs in, or the rivets in. Of course, you have to make sure that you get your spacers in place. Let me switch hands. These spacers here, make sure you get those in place before you rivet and make sure that they don't spin on you as you're riveting. Oh, let's see. I knew I would start drawing a blank once I started to film. These back ribs, these baggage compartment ribs, these are all dimpled on the bottoms. The bottom flanges are dimpled, including this back tab. Now I didn't drill these back tabs on when I had this all clecoed together with the skin, but you do have to drill that so you can dimple it. And they do have to be dimpled now because after you get the skin and everything put back on, you won't be able to dimple them in place, so you have to dimple them ahead of time. So make sure you drill that hole to final size and make sure you drill that hole, these holes on the skin to final size because they have to be dimpled. Up on top here, I have the I forget what number these are, but these center ribs of the baggage compartment. All right, so I'm in the baggage compartment. The center ribs here, they get fitted for nut plates, but you don't install the nut plates. I just have it prepped. So this center hole is drilled for a number 8 screw, and I've got the nut plate holes drilled to size and dimpled. What happens is you put the skin on, this top skin gets put on, and then you rivet the nut plate through this piece and through that skin. And then over top of this will be a mounting plate that actually gets screwed in. So you get these ribs prepped, but you don't install the nut plates quite yet. And I think that might be about all that I have to talk about at the moment. I can't think of anything else. All right. So that's that. Let me move on. What I'm getting ready to do now is dimple the center skin, the bottom skin for this center section. I got to pull the blue vinyl off and start dimpling, but I have to make sure that I dimple what needs to be and I do not dimple what should not be. So I'm going to review the plans and look a couple of steps ahead before I start smacking out dimples on this thing. But this is all ready to go. It's been edge finished and it's been deburred on both sides, so it's just a matter of figuring out what exactly should be dimpled and getting on with it. So I'm going to do that next, and then I'm going to fit the skin to the center section, and hopefully I can start riveting very soon. Howdy everyone. So this is the initial riveting of the bottom center section skin. And I say initial because, as you can see, there are still clecos on it, and those are the areas, according to the instructions, that you do not rivet at this time, because there are other skins that either they slip underneath this skin or they slip over top of the skin, and you rivet those as a finished assembly. So these top two rivet rows here, these two rows of rivets, they do not get riveted at this time. The bottom two rows where the bulkhead, the two bulkheads are in place, these two rows do not get riveted at this time. And then this edge here, yes, this edge right here, that's for the what is that? I think it's the F715 rib. Those ribs are not in place yet on both sides. So there will be that 705 rib will run through here. So obviously no rivets. And the same with the corner. I forget the number of these. I think these are 623. The rib that goes here obviously is not in place. at this time, so that does not get riveted. That's the rib that lays on here, and it gets tied to this rivet here, which has obviously not been done yet. And then it also has a strap that ties it here. So these do not get riveted. And I did not dimple these rivets. They say not to dimple those quite yet because you have to slide the skin underneath here, and it makes it easier if they're not dimpled. So, but what I did dimple was the ears of the rib. So this little tab here, I did dimple it because it would be difficult to dimple it after the fact. You could do it now, but you don't want to dimple this part of the skin. So I just waited. So these tabs are dimpled, but the skin is not. So that's it. This is ready to roll. At this point, I'm going to take it up off the floor. I'm going to put it back on my bench and continue on. I think the next step is the baggage compartment top skins and the basically the floor. So it'll be these skins here where the seats go, the floor skins, and these here, these baggage compartment skins. Those are next. They just get clecoed and drilled. They don't get riveted yet. But once they're in place, drilled and clecoed, then I can start fitting this assembly to the tail assembly. All right.